What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. I bet you've never seen an FA deck quite like this one. This one is it's pretty damn all over the place. There's a lot of machines in here, so I guess you do have that going for you. But you look at this deck, and you know it's kind of an FA deck at heart. But you have some despots in here. You've got ancient gear cards like catapults, even the symphonic warriors. I think all the archetypes that I've named so far are machine based, and you actually see some pretty crazy extra deck plays when you do run the symphonic warriors. Plus you got like despots, you can make cyber dragon infinity and a whole lot of crazy stuff. So I want you guys to see the plays that you can make in this deck. It's pretty much all thanks to Crystron needle fiber, so this deck doesn't really translate that well into the TCG as of right now, but the plays are definitely legitimate, especially with the new FAs coming out of Flames of Destruction. So you see he goes with the catapult. He's going to go for, that is Ancient Gearbox, which adds another card to his hand. Now he's going to summon the Despot 3, goes into Crystron Needle Fiber, summons Mecha Phantom Beasto Lion. Are you a machine too? He is a machine. Everything's machine in this damn deck. Special summons Navigator. Now he's going to go for my favorite FA, the FA Don Dragster, which is basically the legendary 6 Samurai Shien. And you can see with his board, even though he only opened with 5 cards, he's got what, 2 cards over here. He's got another 4 cards here, so that's already a +1 in 6 cards. And then he has another card in hand. In addition to that, he can still go into like Formula Synchron and negate a card. So that can be 2 more cards that, you know, he could potentially take from his opponent or just go ahead and, you know, net himself. So he negates the Melody of the Awakening Dragon. Blue Eyes doesn't really have that many plays here. I mean, sure, he gets rid of the field spell, but Formula Synchron is going to net him another draw. And then check that out. He's actually going to use Formula Synchron's effect to go straight into the Motorhome Transport, which means not only did he have a negation on board in FA Don Dragster, but he has a huge beat stick as well that can probably take over the game, even though he loses Don Dragster. I don't think it's that big of a deal. If he happens to get to another field spell, it's pretty much a wrap. But he's going to go into Cleafor Genius just so he can pendulum summon. He's like, Cap, forget about the FA stuff. I'm past that. Now we're a Despot deck. I'm like, all right, I guess. You know, it's like it's an FA deck sometimes. And you see right here, he's busting out Cyber Dragon Infinity. After he wisely baited out the Phoenix Chain, he's going to summon Reactor Dragon. Now he normal summons the Sonic Meister, and that's pretty much a wrap. We got another duel versus Dark Magician. Dark Magician, you know, pretty simple combo deck. Get your combo and ride at the victory. If not, then you pretty much get wrecked. Now, this is really cool. So he also plays Dragonic Diagram, which that was kind of surprising. I'm like, wait, what? Where exactly? Like, I don't really get the machine aspect of that, but yeah, there's some True Kings up in here as well. Even though the win-win isn't necessarily a true king, but it's all good. He's going to go Navigator, and he's doing this basically so that he can get to Ancient Fairy Dragon. And I don't know if you guys saw that set rotation. He put Gear Town on his opponent's side of the field, which means not only is he going to get a field spell, he gets to pop the Gear Town he put over there, which means he's going to get Wyvern from his deck, which is going to give him another search, and he's still going to be able to get that field spell. So it's really just pluses for days at this point. He's going to go into Don Dragster, which you knew he would go into. And, you know, even when the Ancient Fairy Dragon is not really in use, you can still turn it into the Motorhome, which you see here. Now, I think he kind of messed up right here. He goes into Motorhome. He probably, look, if you're playing against Dark Magician, even though you could argue at this point he doesn't know he's playing against Dark Magician, maybe he's thinking he's playing against like just Prophecy, I probably would have negated the Spellbook of Knowledge with Motorhome, because like Prophecy is so normal, summon dependent. Like I would have negated it and just took into plus, and if my opponent had Regeki, whatever, because he is going to get baited with the Eternal Soul and he's going to try to negate it, but Solemn Strike's going to shut him down. Now, his opponent doesn't have Circle on the field. He is going to summon the Black Magician, which, I mean, it's fine, but, or excuse me, the Dark Illusion. He could have just like stopped it, and 2 of these cards wouldn't have been in his hand. Now, it's honestly not going to matter. He's going to pop this face down, which is another copy of Eternal Soul, and I kind of feel like the Dark Magician guy gave up, because if you notice here, when he's in battle phase, he doesn't even use Eternal Souls like special summon to summon the Dark Magician from his hand. I think he just like gave up, which I don't think that made any sense, but yeah. He actually just like gives up and he doesn't even use Eternal Soul. I mean, I would have, again, I think I would have negated the first copy of the spell book of knowledge that was thrown down at me and just try to go from there. I think he'd have been fine. Then this last one is against, it says Tribute Darks. Okay, it's kind of like it's like a Lair of Darkness deck, sort of. This is actually the most impressive of the openings. Really cool, blowing up your field spells with Ancient Gear Catapult, which gets you more field spells because all the FA cards float when they're sent to the graveyard or when they're destroyed. So he's gonna get himself an Ancient Gear Wyvern. That is not his normal summon, by the way. Ancient Gear Box is going to plus for him. He's going to summon his Symphonics. Normal summon is on Despot 03. He's going in the Needle Fiber, which is kind of like the go for play. And then he has to go for Ancient Fairy Dragon, which can get him additional summons, get him additional field spells. But this time he's going to go Dawn Dragster. And I believe he's going to do something a little more powerful than you saw in previous turns. Ah, yeah, there it is. So this is a field of Decode Talker, Dawn Dragster, and Cyber Dragon Infinity with, well, you can just kind of ignore that. The monsters are what are important here. And obviously he has a little bit of targeting protection with Decode Talker. I mean, this is a really freaking powerful field when you're still talking about like an FA deck. His opponent is going to go Lair of Darkness. Maybe if that Lair of Darkness had not gotten negated, he could have done something. Maybe yeah, I mean, he didn't really have any like tribute cards, I guess, so I'm not really sure if it would have done anything. I don't really get Artifact Scythe in this deck, but it's really not here nor there. The point of this video is really just to kind of showcase this really weird and strange FA build that can make some really crazy turn 1 boards. I really think that FA Dawn Dragster should kind of be like the heart and soul of like your turn 1 plays now, because the card is just that good. But I'm going to go ahead and pause, shut up for a second, and show you guys the deck list really quickly. So this is what the deck looks like on paper, and oh my goodness, there are so many moving pieces in this deck. I didn't think that there would be this many. Actually, I want to move some of these cards around. I generally like to keep the one-ofs kind of like close to each other, and keep all the cards that are in archetypes close to each other as well. You've got things like Beast O Lion, which you saw used multiple times. I think it's mainly just a Crystron Needle Fiber tool. You summon it off Needle Fiber, and then you go into like a Synchro play, and then obviously you get your free token. You can do whatever you want with that. I think actually, is it mainly used for I think the token, I don't know, maybe that's used for Formula Synchron. Anyways, there are so many like crazy one-ofs with the set rotation, which I actually think definitely needs to be in here. The fact that Gear Town is ran at 3, I think it kind of makes sense. You're running Catapult. So many field spells in this deck. It'll be a shame if Terraforming gets hit, but all the FA field spells basically, they replace themselves when they're blown up, and then obviously the same thing goes for something like Gear Town. So I think set rotation makes a lot of sense. You're going to go into Ancient Fairy Dragon. You have Catapult to blow any of the field spells up, and the combos are just kind of wonky. I mean, we ain't got no space for hand traps in here because you got way too many monsters. Same thing for regular traps. I generally like this, say, as a rule of thumb, and this is a $43. This is a 43 card deck, so I don't really know if you have any space to move around cards. But I generally like to say that if you have just a couple of tech spots for some trap cards that you know, Infinite Transience that's coming out in the next set, Flames of Destruction, is generally your best bet, because it's kind of like a trap card that can be used during your opponent's turn from your hand, and then also it can negate other cards that are in the columns as well. You know, until we get Crystron Needle Fiber, I don't really think that this deck could function in the TCG. Not sure as hell not as well as it did in those duels, but you know, when this card comes out, I think kind of all hell will break loose, and it's interesting to see how many archetypes kind of benefit from like you know, cards like Crystron Needle Fiber. And I think that FAs have natural synergy with Machiners because they're all Earth, and you know, they like blowing their cards up with Catapult and Fairy Dragon, so there's obviously some plays there.